Welcome, everybody. My name is Mina Jane. I'm the director of the Ashland Public Library of Massachusetts, and we're always super excited to be here with Jody Blanchette, also known as Red Read Reviews, talking about all of the books she's been reading in the last month and the ones that she thinks that we might enjoy. So before we get to her, I just want to say a quick thanks to the Friends of the Ashland Public Library for supporting all of our programs, and to Jody for letting us share this program with other libraries, which is always like magic to me. So without further ado, Jody, take it away. What should we read?
First of all, I want to apologize for the fact that I'm dewy. It's a little warm in my house, and I'm shiny, and I'm burnt from a vacation, so I look a hot mess. But y'all aren't here for me; you're here for the books. So
I'm here
I know
for you,
that.
Jody. I'm here for
Thank
you.
you. I'm appreciating that. So on July 17th, I know one of your partner libraries, the Framingham Library, is doing a crime fiction slash horror type talk, and they have three authors coming who I'm actually a super big fan of. So I want to talk a little bit about those authors first. So
Actually, there's four authors.
well, Eric, yes, I
There.
actually the moderator. He's an author as well. I have his books, but I have not read his books yet because I have like 1,000 books, Linda. This is like
Okay,
so
you go. You go ahead.
event,
I just wanted to.
no, I know Eric, so yeah, he's like in everything. He gets around. Like
Mhm.
he's pretty awesome. So it's Gabino Iglesias, V. Castro, and Margot Duehi, and I know I'm saying her name wrong. So first I want to talk about Gabino. And Gabino is one of my, let's see, I don't know if you all married people get a get out of jail free card. My husband and I have discussed this, and if I was ever the opportunity for me to run away with Gabino Iglesias, he would be my get out of jail free card. I love this man. He's so nice, and he writes the most horrible books you'll ever read. He's like, I just can't even with him. So his book that came out last year that got a lot of really great press was The Devil Takes You Home, which I haven't really seen it in a lot of libraries. Do you know if you have it in your library? You do. Thank you. Good. Thank you. Because not a lot of libraries have this one. This was my first book that I read by him, and this is where I fell in love with his writing. It's a book about grief. It's about a man who has to like infiltrate a cartel, kill off some people, and he's got his friend with him, and it becomes this whole horrible thing. There's like two situations in the book that are the most horrific things I think I've probably ever read. One has to do with an alligator, and one has to do with chopping off some toes. And yeah, no, but like the way he writes it, like the alligator scene, you don't come back from that. And when I saw him live last year after reading the book, I was like, man, like that was hard for me. And but it was good. It worked with the story. It wasn't not necessary for the story because of the situation. These big drug lords might have a tiger, might have some alligators, because they got all that money to spend, and how are you going to dispose of a body, right? Okay, so that's in there. But this book was really dark, really sad. A lot of it was very sad. The main characters lost his daughter, and he was dealing with that grief, and just very sad. So damn good. So he's got another book coming out next month. And I don't think there shouldn't be any copies available at the event, I would think, because it doesn't come out to August. But his next book is House of Bone and Rain. So you're going to want to pre-order this one. This one takes place in Puerto Rico, and it's during a hurricane, and it's these I think it's four of them. Is it 4 or 5 young guys? They're like best friends, ride or die type guys. And one of theirs mother gets shot and killed. And so, it becomes about revenge and getting payback for her death, and, finding out who your real friends are. And it's an extremely, extremely violent book. There isn't any huge, super gory scenes like the other book, but it's really incredibly dark and deals a lot with I don't want to say supernatural because it's not, but like superstitions, superstitious beliefs, religious beliefs. There's a whole hodgepodge of different gods that these boys believe in, and they call on them to help get them through, and the gods make appearances, and it gets really dark. And then there's the supernatural aspect. There's some weird stuff that happens in the ocean, and I can't really tell you a whole lot, but it's really crazy. And this was a one sitting read for me because, it's thick. It's a pretty thick book, but it's one of those things where once you get sucked in, the way that he writes his characters, like they're horrible, bad people, but I love them. So you get sucked in. I just love Gabino. He's got my heart. So that's Gabino. So if you go to the event, you're going to want to buy that one and pre-order this one.
I will. So what, has he always been a horror writer? I mean, or those aren't his first two books, are they?
No, he's got a couple. I have all of his books. I actually haven't read his backlist. I believe he's always been horror, but it's always steeped in folklore and culture. And without sounding like an ass, I think they're books written for men.
Mm.
I'm not even allowed to say that word. Oh my God, I just got you shut down.
We're recording, Jody.
Can't be trusted. So they're like books for dudes, but I like a change from all of the domestic thriller, chicky horror stuff. When I want to change, I think Gabino, he's there for you, and he writes friendship, brotherly love. I think I'd like to see him write female. I think you'd be interested to see him write female. I think he could do it. Probably be really totally badass female. Okay, so also coming, we've got V. Castro, who I've met a couple times. Again, I have all of her books. Only read one. So The Queen of the Cicadas, I have not read this. Maybe I'll get this read before the event. I don't know a whole lot about it, but it looks good. So I'm going to probably get that. I'll put it up on my Insta and give you a review for that before the event. But I did read her book, Goddess of Films. This is an itty bitty little book. It's a comparison to like your average book. I love these. Excuse me, they're pocket size. Like, look at this thing. It's so tiny, it fits in your back pocket. This one is about a girl a bunch of girls that call it's not a demon. She's like a god. She's a goddess. And one of the girls gets possessed by this goddess. And so the friends are all, we got to get this goddess out of her, because it changes the girl, and she becomes this sexual feminine being that's in touch with the earth, and she's owning it. And even though she's possessed by this goddess, is it a bad thing? You're figuring out who you are, and it's okay. And this goddess doesn't care that she's like this, and it's just, it's so good. It's sexuality, it's dark, it's friendship, it's so good. It's a possession book, which I always game for. And she's awesome, the author too. She's super sweet. And I believe I think she lives in England. So she's traveling a bit. I think she's not from around here. She's from across the pond somewhere. I don't think she's from around here.
I think she's in the US. I believe Gabino's coming from the UK.
No, he isn't. I think he lives in Texas.
Oh, don't pay attention to me. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
I do my homework on those that I stalk. And I'm pretty sure Gabino's from Texas.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I might be wrong.
I think you're wrong. I think you're talking about the other guy. The really muscular one.
That's Gabino.
Oh, who's the other guy? Sean. S.A. Crosby? Crosby, yeah.
He's in the United States.
Yeah, he's the one from Texas, I believe.
Oh, no, he might be from Texas, but I think Gabino is as well.
Okay.
I would die if you got S.A. Cosby to your freaking library. If you want to make that happen, I'd love you for life.
He is participating in our auction, but he's not coming here live. Sorry.
He is one of my high bucket list authors that I want to. Oh, he's from Virginia. That's what I thought he was from Virginia. Yeah, Christine, you know what's up. I thought he was from Virginia because he writes all his books in Virginia. See,
but Where's Gabino from?
I don't think she
Christine.
knows that. She's not obsessed with him the way I am.
Oh, okay. All
He
right.
is from
Somebody.
Texas. Thank you, Christine. Christine's awesome. So
Okay.
Christine is hosting a horror readers retreat in November, and I'm going to it. And it's like it's supposed to be for readers, but it's turned out to be like 90% of the people going are authors. And I think it's like me and like 6 other people that are readers that are going to be there. It's going to be so awesome.
I
It's
feel
going to
like
be
I need
me
to.
and all these writers.
Christine, can you invite me too? I'll be the
And
eighth.
it's like a 3 or 4 day weekend thing, and you have full access to the authors, which is not a good thing because I'm going to be, myself and be all over them. And they're all horror. So, it's male. And anyways, so guest number 3 for July 17th is, again, Margot Duehe, saying it wrong. If she's ever hears me say this, actually, I'm going to be at the event, so hopefully I can get her to say it the right way. I've talked about her a couple times. I have, a couple months ago, I suggested her books because I love them. So the first book, Scorched Grace, was I finally got a copy of.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, I didn't have a copy of the first one, but I did have an arc of her second one, which is Blessed Water. Again, this is about a potty mouth nun who has a bad past, some drug problems, and she's always she's brought up religious, and she joins the church and she's teaching kids and she's really reinventing herself. But in her spare time, she's like a PI, and because she's from she's got the darkness in her, she's able to find the darkness and solve crimes doing that.
Oh, I was just putting that. I want to know where V Castro's from now. So it's a mystery horror.
I think she's just mystery. She just does crime mystery. So okay. I think that's why the talk is supposed to be it's crime and horror, where Gabino and V Castro are both horror, and Margot, I don't know what it is. She's crime fiction. But those books are really good. They're definitely like some of my favorite books. So that's what's happening on July 17th in Framingham. I will be there, most definitely. If anybody that watches this that have not met me before, you can meet me there. If you need me to help you shop for books while you're there, I will stand there and direct you to books. I know what's up. So,
hey, in August, later in August, after your next session, actually, we're hosting Rachel Harrison and Emily C. Hughes in person at the Boxborough Library.
In August?
In August 21st.
I know she's coming to Unlikely Story in September, and I was going to go see her in September, but I tend to stalk her as well.
Okay. Just wanted to let you know. I'll let you know more about it. And I'll send all the information to all of this to everybody who is registered as well. So that if you want, you can come and hang out with us.
Yeah, Rachel Harrison's one of my favorite horror writers. She writes, I guess it's called pink horror. I call it chick horror. She definitely writes for women. She's so good at characters, and she's got such a great vibe. I love her. I want to look like her too. She's absolutely gorgeous. Okay, so going beyond that to other books that I'm going to suggest that are not going to be at the event, but these are the books that I've been reading. Mask of Flies. Is it out yet? Oh my God. I hate that I do this to you guys. I pick up books that aren't out yet, but it's coming next month. Okay. So you're going to want to pre-order this. I say, get this for your library. This is going to be in my top 10 for 2024. If not, possibly in my top 3. Right? Seriously. Like that's a big deal to me. I don't know this author, Matthew Lyons, never read him before. This book was fan-freaking-tastic. From start to finish, it is nonstop. It starts with a bank robbery. You got this group of people, I think there's like 4 or 5, 6 of them. They've got this plan. They're robbing this bank. Bad things happen. They're running. People die, split up. So the main character, Anne, takes off and has to hide. Because, it's made it to the news. There's deaths. I believe there's police deaths. So she's got to hide. She's got some injuries, and she's got a friend that's got injuries from the bank heist. So she goes and hides in the cabin she grew up with in the middle of the woods. And this is a cabin that her mother and her had fled when she was little because there was something wrong. There was some force that was stalking them, found them at the cabin, and they left. She hadn't went back. So she goes back with this friend.
Bad thing. Bad thing.
Bad things happen. Oh my God, do bad things happen. It's I don't want to call it, it's not a Wendigo, but like there's shapeshifter and it gets really dark and there's this whole, like, you don't really, I'd say I didn't pick up on it until like maybe halfway through the book. It's really got this dark culty thing going on, which I love me some cults. Supernatural, like this thing that's chasing her, it doesn't stay at the cabin. So she can't really hide from it. And, you know, and it takes down everybody around her. So it's, I don't know, it's nonstop. Every single chapter, something bad happens. We're like, is she going to catch a break?
Okay. I just have to stop you there for a second to just talk about these books. Like, what is it about something that where it's so something bad happens in every chapter that is appealing to you and to us, to as readers?
I don't know. For me, it moves the story along. It doesn't, like, if I'm not bored, whether it be like you got a steamy love scene or like bad things happening or whatever, if I'm not bored and you got a little bit of something in every chapter to keep me moving, your book is like awesome. And this book has, oh my God, 433 pages. I read it in one sitting. Now, I know normal people don't do these kind of things because y'all have lives. I don't really have lives. Well, I have kids, but you know, they know better than talking when I'm reading. This was one of those books where I stayed up to the middle of the night. I think it was like 3 o'clock in the morning when I finally put it down, and I had started it around 6 o'clock at night. And it gave me nightmares. I do get nightmares.
That's the first time I've heard you ever say that. And
yeah, well, I don't normally get nightmares from the books I read, but this one did give me nightmares. So that's kind of why it's in the top 3, because it scared the crap out of me. And I brought it to sleep with me, and then I woke up disturbed, and I was like, that's good writing. If it gets to you in your sleep, that's good writing. If it gives me nightmares, you're going to be in my top 3.
You know, I'm a horror light reader, so I probably won't pick that up.
No, not unless you want to be scared. But for those that like the darker stuff, seriously, every chapter, it was nonstop. It was so good. And there's gun violence and there's like car chases and it's very cinematic. I like the whole time I'm reading it, I'm like, oh my God, this needs to become a movie. It was just, I don't even know who I cast either. I need to sit down and think about that because, it was so good. So good.
But okay, so like in every chapter, something bad happens. But what is the charm? Is there like, I know with romance there's a happily ever after, but like what happens to give you that like endorphin release at the end that something is resolved?
I don't know that anything gets resolved until the end of this book. It's very, I don't know. I don't know. You always ask these hard questions. You're picking my brain. It's I personally just like the thrill of not knowing what's going to happen and seeing these people get into these bad situations that just keep getting worse. It's like you the author's really pushing. You're thinking, how far can they go? It just kept getting worse in this book. Like every chapter, it just kept getting worse. And you're like, oh my God, can we get a break? There's no breathing room in this, which is great. There's like that you think that you're safe for like half of a chapter and then something happens. Like I said, it was nonstop. Mm-hmm. I like that. It keeps my attention, keeps my adrenaline going. I'm not bored. Mm-hmm. I get bored so quick with books. So quick.
Well, you read so many. So
I do.
This is kind of fun for me because you're really talking about the ones that somehow struck you during the month. And, you know, I want for people who are here today to just go ahead and use the chat to talk about why do they read these books, or why would they pick up a book that Jody says was horrible every chapter.
I would love to know from the people that watch this if they've actually picked up a book that I recommended and whether or not they liked it or agreed with me. That interests me. With Instagram, you get some sort of feedback on my reviews, and I can tell some of the people that I peer pressured into buying or reading a book. I know Christine is definitely one of those people that I'm like, I like this book. She's like, okay, I'm going to read it. There are the books I read are not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I know you won't be reading any of the books I read, but I like to hear from people whether or not I hit the mark, because I want to get books out there to the right people,
Mm-hmm. I love it because I think it's important for everybody to know that it's okay to read this stuff. It's
Yeah,
good to read this
yeah.
stuff. There's no
Well, it was
shame.
taboo for a good, oh my God,
Mhm.
at least a good 10, 15 years. Horror was considered a taboo genre. Even though Stephen King has made a name for himself, he was like the only horror author for the longest time. When horror's been around forever, there's a million horror authors out there, but it's only ever been spotlit on Stephen King. And it's like I get a lot from horror personally. There's some horror that have a little bit of romance in them, family values, friendship. You don't expect to see these things, and then there's some blood, slashery stuff happening, and alligators and toes, that happen. That's what keeps me going back.
Yeah. But there's definitely, we've talked about this, and there's a sort of catharsis in seeing people having to deal with all of that stuff, and what happens at the end is important, because there may not be a resolution like there is in romance where everybody has a happy ending, but there is some sort of catharsis that we've talked about in the past.
Yeah.
And so I think that horror is very, very important to our culture.
It's also good for an escape. Your life sucks. It could be a hell of a lot worse. You could be having your toes fed to somebody. So that's, read horror to make you feel better about yourself.
Got it. Okay, I'm sorry. I know I went off topic.
You're fine. So next up, I have a thriller, Ruth Ware. Everybody knows Ruth Ware. I'm sure you have this on your library shelves. I am forever auto read this author. She hasn't failed me, I don't think, at all. I can't think of a single book by her that I've read that I haven't liked. But she changes it up with each book. It's not like reading the same story over and over again. She's got new stuff. I think she does her research. She gets fresh ideas. She's got some interesting stuff going on in her brain. So in One Perfect Couple, it gives you so what I read online from all of my Instagram buddies, like the whole thing was that this is a reality TV dating Love Island type thing. And I was like, I'm not going to read this. It starts off as being about a reality TV romance thing. This woman and her boyfriend join the thing. They get flown to this island, this beautiful island paradise, and there's a whole bunch of other couples there, and process of elimination, who's the perfect couple. Well, a hurricane hits, weather gets bad, it becomes a locked room thriller very quickly, because they're stranded on the island. They have no power. There's no way to get off the island. There's limited food. So, essentially I think it's 6 people, it might be 8 people, are trapped on an island. None of them know each other except for the couples, who know their better half. But do they really know their better half also becomes a thing. So there's like one day of actually filming for this show before everything goes bad. And it becomes a fight for survival. And you learn things about the characters and who they are, and then the connection on why they were all picked to be on this show. And then you find out things really aren't as they seemed, and super good. Locked room. I love it when people get picked off one by one. You watching, they're in this ideal setting. What could possibly happen on? Because they're going to get hit in the head with a coconut. No, they're going to get slaughtered. I mean, what else are you going to do on an island when no one's around? But it becomes a darker. There's a lot of I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to. If I tell you, it's going to ruin the book. I can't tell you. There's a bunch of bad stuff that happens. A bunch of backstory stuff. Everything's sort of intertwined. The last 3 chapters, you really get a satisfying ending. It was good. It was so good.
It sounds a lot like is it Agatha Christie, where they had that? There was like, I know it was originally called 10 Little Indians or something, and they were on an island, and they one by one got picked off.
Mm-hmm.
Have you You ever
I
read
don't
it?
think I've read that. I've only ever actually read one Agatha Christie book.
Oh, okay. Well, you might want to pick that one up. It was originally called 10 Little Indians, and it was then changed because that was, very culturally
Yep.
insensitive, to something else I can't remember. Oh, then there were none. That's it.
And then oh no, I have not read that, but
Yeah,
that, I
thank you,
mean,
Catherine.
that title right there says it all. It's
Yeah,
down to nothing.
it's not like gory or anything, but it definitely has that psychological thriller type of thing.
Yeah. Well, this isn't gory. Ruth Ware doesn't really do gory. She does it's intense thriller. It's very fast moving. I don't think there's super amounts of blood, not unnecessary blood. It's not like anybody gets their head ripped off and paraded around with it. It's,
It is an
normal
island.
stuff.
No
It's
alligators?
you would think. Well, Lisa Gardner wrote a book. I think I talked about it on this a couple, where she had those crabs, these giant freaking crabs, coconut crabs, I think they were, and they're like the size of like my dog. And I'm reading this book, and then I'm Googling. I'm like, oh my god, I would hate to be stuck on an island with those things. Like, yeah, no, they'll eat you, and they'll feel no regrets about it.
I remember hearing about that, but I don't know if we talked about it on this series, but I think you and I talked about it because I remember something about giant crabs.
Giant crabs, man. And I guess Lisa Gardner actually went. She based it on a trip she made to an exclusive island that was off grid, and they had like these giant tarantulas in the cabins with her that she had to learn to live with. And then if you walk outside at night, you had these massive crabs that'll attack you.
Yeah.
So it was. See, I knew I mentioned it. I can't remember the name of the book because I read a lot of
Catherine
books,
says
but
it was.
you
Catherine says
Google
yes.
it.
Yeah, we did talk about it. Thank
So
you.
tomorrow night, this is Sam Dewey. I need to have one of my kids stand here and fan me. Um, with a nice feather one, that would be great. So tomorrow night, I'm going to see in Brookline, Chuck Tingle. Do you know who Chuck Tingle is? Are you going? No. God. I am so flippin' excited for this event. Chuck Tingle is like queer horror, and like, he just so freaking amazing. He promotes love to the highest level. Love is love. Love is real. He's like this super energetic force, and he shows up to his book signings with this, I don't want to call it a sack or a pillowcase, but he's always got his face hidden because he makes it not about him, it's about what he writes. And I've not met him yet, so I'm very excited to meet him tomorrow. But his book that came out today is called Bury Your Gaze, and I just finished. This was another one sitting book. So apparently in the 1970s and 1980s, it was common for Hollywood to not write queer characters. And if they did write queer characters, they weren't allowed to be like super openly romantic. They had no love scenes. They were always like the sidekick, never the main event. And I guess the phrase was coined "burying the gays." It, you know, killing them off because they're not important, because they're less than. Which blows my mind. I did not even pick up on that growing up, that it was a thing. I think my first experience with a queer character was in My So-Called Life. Do you remember that show?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I love that show. Jared Leto when he was in his 20s. Oi. So there was a queer character on that I absolutely loved. And my father wouldn't let me watch the show because of it. My family's very much anti everything, which is amazing because I turned out so awesome and I am very pro everything. So that was my experience. So my father was very much bury the gays. We don't talk about them, But in this book, back to the book, not my life, he writes about old school Hollywood, how it's changed to new Hollywood and technology, where AI is coming into play, right? This isn't really AI. It's techno. It becomes, I don't know how to explain it. He tapped into something that could be possible in the future. I don't know if he's there spying on the freaking people in Hollywood, but like Chuck Tingle knows what's up. Where actors that are dead can still make movies, right? You may not think this is a thing. It could be a thing. and they're marketing that, and they're loving that and focusing all their attention on that. While the screenwriter Misha, um, he's got this great series that is doing really well, and the two characters, it's been leading up to them being gay. It hasn't really, they're not openly about it, but I guess the peak of the show would be them actually coming together, and the publishing house, the producers, money backing the thing says, we don't like that. You're going to have to kill them off. That was not the point of why he became a writer. He's a queer writer, and he wanted to get more queer people into the movies. You know, you have all these kids, these teenagers that grown up. Me, I'm 43 years old, and I was brought up with I'm not queer, but I was brought up with not seeing any queer characters on TV or in the movies. So those people that are queer didn't have anybody to relate to. And Misha is trying to bring them back in, make them now. So he's asked to bury the gays, which then he has to make this decision if he wants to, like, not sell out, but yeah, I guess it's selling out. Do I go with what they want from Hollywood, or do I go against Hollywood and then never work ever again, but I'm still creating art? And during this decision process, his past characters come back to haunt him. It's all the evil past characters, because he writes queer horror. Oh, forgot to mention that. So he's got like all these great queer horror movies, and the main villain of these characters are starting to haunt him, and sort of change his mind, like, should he sell out, not sell out? And like I said, AI comes into play. It's such a strange combination in a book. There's a lot going on. You really got to pay attention. I had to back read a couple chapters to make sure okay, that happened. Wait, did I miss that? Maybe taking notes with this one is good. But it's really good. It's really gory. There's some stuff. There's some icky stuff that happens, but it's good. I mean, I'm not going to ruin it for you, but somebody gets a piano dropped on them.
So
like, I'm reading it, and it happens like within the first 2 chapters that they get this piano dropped on them, and I literally cracked up, which is not right. And then, that's how the chapter ends, and then he describes the carnage of the said piano being dropped down, and I'm like, oh, that kind of sucks. But it was like, oh my god, he dropped the piano on them. That's awesome. So Chuck Tingle is where it's at. Queer horror.
You said
his
tomorrow.
Other book. This book is Bury Your Gays. Mm-hmm. His last book was Camp Damascus, which was about a reconditioning camp where they try to, get you to not be gay, because that's a thing. That was really good too.
So, and you said you're going to see him tomorrow at Brookline?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, awesome. He's going to be in Brookline at the Coolidge Theater across the street from Brookline Booksmiths. And he's got Ryan LaSala is going to be interviewing him, who is one of my other favorite queer horror writers, and he does YA horror. I don't think I've talked about this book before, but this was The Honeys was, I think, in my top 3, not last year. I think it came out a couple years ago. Two something years ago, 2022. This book is so freaking good. I recommended this to everybody. I made my book club read it. I tried to get it put in the schools. They wouldn't do it because it's queer horror, and I live in a small-minded little town in the middle of Connecticut. But I got it in the library, and I buy this. I have this one book, I think I have 8 copies of, because whenever I see it, like at a thrift store, I buy it so that I can give it to people. I always have a copy in my car. I have a copy in my Little Free Library at all times. It is such a positive, not positive horror book. They call it cottagecore. That's a thing. I didn't know. It's very flowery, like, oh God, it's hard to describe. It's about this kid that goes to summer camp, and he's gay. He's openly gay, and acceptance in the camp, and within his family, and his sister is killed, and he's trying to find her killer. He thinks he can do that by through this camp, and it becomes a culty nightmare.
Mm.
And it's really, there's like 3 or 4 really gross scenes in it, but it's a beautiful book. Is it not? It's not cozy horror because it's not cozy.
Mm-mm.
There's
No.
no beating around the bush on this because there's definitely some scenes in there with honey, huh? Because there's bees involved. It's just so freaking well written. Um, but it gives a voice to YA. So I just really enjoyed this.
Mhm.
Queer youth horror, honey's beautiful. You're gonna want to like cover yourself in flowers after you read this, and then go out and massacre all your enemies. Um,
Actually, Jody, we are out of time. It's 7:36.
Surprise, the best part. I'll save that for next time.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. So I'll send the list out to everybody and all of these programs that everybody that we've been talking about, so you can join them if you would like. And Jody, thank you once again for an amazing, amazing month of reading for those who believe. And for everybody who's here with us tonight, thank you so much for being here. We always, always have a good time. We will see you next time.